My first life was a lesson in foolishness. I was Maya Hartwell, the doting wife of a man who loved his company more than he loved me. That was the first fact. The second was that his rival, Victor Chen, was a better man in every conceivable way, a fact I acknowledged far too late. The third and most important fact was that my husband, Derek, let me die. He chose a merger over my life, and I faded away in a sterile hospital room alone, clutching divorce papers I never had the chance to sign. I opened my eyes. The smell of antiseptic is the first thing that hits me, sharp and clean, a scent I remember from the end. It burns my nostrils, a stark contrast to the gentle floral arrangements Derek used to send, back when he still pretended to care. The steady, rhythmic beeping of a machine to my right is the second thing I notice. It's a sound that haunted my final days, a constant reminder of my failing body and my husband's glaring absence. But this time, the beeping isn't a harbinger of death, it's a promise of a second chance. Derek's voice echoes from the hallway, low and urgent, laced with the same impatience I'd grown so accustomed to. "The merger is more important than visiting her right now," he says, his words a cold slap of reality. "She's stable. I have to be at that meeting." The same words, the exact same words he spoke 3 months ago on the day I died. My fingers, thin and weak, curl into a fist around the crisp paper I feel tucked under my hand. I don't need to look to know what it is, the divorce papers. The same ones I had clutched in my first life. A flimsy shield against the pain of his betrayal. This time they feel different. Not like a shield, but like a weapon. A torrent of rage, pure and crystalline, floods my chest. There is no grief, no confusion, just a burning, all-consuming fury. I'm not the same weak, heartbroken woman who let herself fade away. I've been given an impossible gift, a return to the very day my world ended, and I will not waste it. This isn't just a second chance at life, it's a second chance at revenge. I turn my head, my neck stiff, and focus on the large, round clock on the wall. The black hands point to 2:47 p.m. My heart, the same one that gave out on me, gives a hard, triumphant thump against my ribs. Derek's board meeting with Chen Industries, the very meeting that sealed my fate, starts at 4 p.m. The merger he valued more than my life. The deal that made him a titan of industry and left me a ghost. Last time, he secured his future while I lost mine. He presented a strategy so brilliant, so ruthless, that Victor Chen had no choice but to concede. But Derek's brilliance was built on a foundation of lies, on funds he'd siphoned from the company's pension. A secret I discovered in my final lonely days. A secret I died with. Not this time. A slow smile spreads across my face, feeling foreign on my chapped lips. This time, Derek won't be the one making the offer. I will. I'll be the one to approach his lifelong rival, the formidable Victor Chen, and I will make him an offer he can't possibly refuse. Derek has his timeline, his 4 p.m. deadline. But now, I have mine. And in this life, I will be the one who wins. The IV in my arm feels like a tether to the past, a reminder of the fragility I'm determined to shed. With a strength I didn't possess in my first life, I sit up, the thin hospital gown scratching against my skin. The room is exactly as I remember it, a beige box of quiet despair. But now it feels like a starting block. My gaze falls on the phone resting on the bedside table, a sleek black rectangle that holds the key to Derek's downfall. My hand trembles slightly as I reach for it, not from weakness, but from anticipation. I remember the password, a ridiculous combination of our anniversary and his birthday, a code I once found romantic. Now, it's just another symbol of his self-obsession. The screen lights up, and I navigate to the contacts, my fingers moving with a newfound purpose. Victor Chen. His name sits there, a relic from a time when I tried to broker peace between the two rivals, a naive attempt to merge their worlds. Now I will merge them, but on my terms. I find his private line, a number I was never supposed to have, a number Derek would be furious to know I possessed. I press the call button, my heart hammering against my ribs, a drumbeat of rebellion. The phone rings once, twice. I imagine him on the other end, a man I've only met in passing. A man whose reputation for brilliance is matched only by his ruthlessness. A man who is, in every way, Derek's equal and opposite. Chen! His voice comes through, sharp and clipped, no time for pleasantries. Mr. Chen, I say, my own voice surprisingly steady, devoid of the tremor I feel inside. This is Maya Hartwell. There's a beat of silence on the other end, a flicker of surprise, perhaps. Mrs. Hartwell, to what do I owe the pleasure? I have inside information about Hartwell Corp's merger strategy, I say, cutting straight to the point. There is no time for games. Information that could save you $50 million. The line is quiet for a moment. I can almost hear the gears turning in his head, the cold calculation. Just as he's about to speak, the door to my room swings open, and Derek strides in, his face a mask of practiced concern. Maya, darling, I came as soon as I could. His eyes, the same ones that once held a universe of love for me, are now cold and assessing. They flick from my face to the phone clutched in my hand, and his expression shifts, concern melting away into sharp suspicion. Who are you talking to? He asks, his voice low and dangerous. Before I can answer, Victor's voice comes through the phone, clear and decisive. Mrs. Hartwell, I'm listening. Derek's face contorts with rage. He lunges for the phone, his movements swift and predatory. Give me that phone, Maya, but I am no longer the woman who cowers. I hold the phone tight, turning my body away from him, my voice firm. Meet me at the Meridian Hotel in 1 hour, Mr. Chen. The penthouse suite. I end the call, the silence in the room deafening. Derek stares at me, his chest rising and falling with ragged breaths. What have you done? He hisses, his voice a venomous whisper. I've just saved my own life, I say, my voice as cold as his. And I've just destroyed yours. He shakes his head, a disbelieving laugh escaping his lips. You're delusional. You're on medication. No one will believe a word you say. They'll believe this, I say, my fingers flying across the screen of my phone. I navigate to the voice recordings, to the file I'd labeled Derek's Legacy. I recorded everything, Derek. Every late-night strategy session, every hushed phone call. I recorded you, in your own words, admitting to embezzling from the pension fund to finance this merger. The color drains from his face, leaving him pale and gaunt. He looks at me, truly looks at me, for the first time in years, and I see not a husband, but a cornered animal. You wouldn't, he whispers, his voice barely audible. I died, I say, the words hanging in the air between us, heavy and irrefutable. I have nothing left to lose. His 4 p.m. deadline, the one that once felt like a death sentence, is now my greatest advantage. I have 90 minutes. 90 minutes to dismantle his empire, to expose his crimes, to make him pay for everything he's done. And as I swing my legs out of the hospital bed, the flimsy gown, a warrior's tunic, I feel a surge of power I've never known. This time, I'm not just fighting for my life. I'm fighting for justice. And I will not fail. The Meridian Hotel's restaurant is a masterpiece of modern design, all glass walls and gleaming marble floors. Afternoon sunlight streams in, casting long shadows across the pristine white tablecloths. It's a world away from the sterile beige of my hospital room, a world I was never supposed to see again. My silenced phone buzzes incessantly on the table, a frantic, desperate rhythm against the polished wood. Derek! I ignore it, my attention focused on the man sitting across from me. Victor Chen is exactly as I remember him from brief, formal encounters at galas and charity events. Impeccably dressed, his posture radiating a quiet confidence that borders on arrogance. His dark eyes, sharp and intelligent, miss nothing. They're fixed on me now, a mixture of curiosity and skepticism in their depths. He hasn't said a word since I sat down, content to let the silence stretch, to see if I'll break. I won't. You made a bold claim, Mrs. Hartwell, he says finally, his voice a low, smooth baritone that commands attention. $50 million is a significant number. It's a conservative estimate, I reply, my voice even. I slide my phone across the table, the screen lit up, the audio file ready to play. Derek's entire strategy is built on a lie. He's leveraged the company's pension fund, a fund he's been systematically draining for the past 2 years. Victor's eyebrows raise a fraction of an inch, the only sign of his surprise. He reaches for the phone, his long, elegant fingers hovering over the play button. Before he can press it, a commotion at the entrance to the restaurant draws our attention. Derek storms in, his face a thunderous mask of fury. He's flanked by two large men in dark suits, their expressions grim and imposing. They move with the practiced efficiency of hired muscle, their eyes scanning the room until they land on our table. "Maya," Derek says, his voice loud enough to turn heads, laced with a false, saccharine concern on, "What are you doing here? You should be in the hospital. You're not well." He's trying to discredit me, to paint me as unstable, a hysterical woman on the verge of a breakdown. It's a classic move. One he's used before to dismiss my concerns, to gaslight me into silence. But this time, it won't work. Victor's presence beside me is a shield, a silent testament to my credibility. He doesn't move, doesn't speak, simply watches Derek's pathetic performance with an air of detached amusement. "I'm fine, Derek," I say, my voice calm and clear, cutting through his manufactured drama. "I was just having a conversation with Mr. Chen." "You're delusional from the medication," Derek sputters, his desperation palpable. He turns to Victor, a sneer twisting his lips. "I don't know what lies she's been telling you, Chen, but you'd be a fool to listen to a word she says. She's medically unstable." He gestures to his security guards, a silent command. "I'm taking her back to the hospital, where she can get the care she needs." One of the guards steps forward, his hand reaching for my arm. Before he can touch me, Victor moves. It's a small movement, a slight shift in his chair, but it's enough to make the man pause. "She's with me," Victor says, his voice quiet but carrying an unmistakable weight of authority. The guard hesitates, looking to Derek for direction. "You stole from the pension fund to finance this merger," I say, my eyes locked on Derek's. "I will not let him control the narrative, not anymore." "Is that true, Hartwell?" Victor asks, his gaze sharp and piercing. He leans forward, his attention fully on Derek, the predator sizing up its prey. "Of course not," Derek blusters, his face flushing a blotchy red. "She's confused. The doctors said there could be side effects, hallucinations." I don't need to argue. To defend myself, I have proof. I nod to the phone still sitting in front of Victor. "Play track 7, I say, my voice steady. Victor's eyes meet mine for a brief moment, a flicker of understanding passing between us. He picks up the phone and presses play. The warm, sophisticated buzz of the restaurant fades into the background as Derek's own voice fills the air, cold and calculating, stripped of all its public charm. "The pension fund is a gold mine," his recorded voice says, clear and undeniable. "A few borrowed funds here and there, moved between accounts. No one will ever know. By the time they figure it out, the merger will be complete, and I'll be untouchable." A collective gasp ripples through the nearby tables. The silence that follows is absolute, a cold, heavy blanket that suffocates all other sound. Derek's face, once flushed with rage, is now ashen, his mouth hanging open in a silent scream. He looks at me, his eyes wide with a mixture of hatred and disbelief. In that moment, he doesn't see his wife. He sees the architect of his ruin. The carefully constructed facade of Derek Hartwell, the brilliant CEO, the loving husband, has been shattered, and all that's left is the ugly, twisted truth. And as Victor Chen slowly, deliberately stops the recording, the triumphant smile that spreads across his face is a mirror of my own. Victor stands, a slow, deliberate movement that captures the attention of everyone in the restaurant. He's a tall man, and his height, combined with the palpable aura of power that surrounds him, seems to diminish Derek, to shrink him into a caricature of the titan he once was. The afternoon sunlight catches the silver in his dark hair, creating a halo effect that feels almost biblical, as if judgment itself has descended upon our table. He doesn't look at Derek, his gaze is fixed solely on me. The skepticism that had clouded his eyes is gone, replaced by something I can't quite decipher. Respect, intrigue, perhaps even a hint of admiration. He extends a hand, not in a gesture of dismissal, but of invitation. "Mrs. Hartwell," he says, his voice a low, resonant hum that cuts through the stunned silence of the room. "Would you consider a consultant position with Chen Industries?" The question hangs in the air, a pendulum swinging, marking the exact moment the world shifts on its axis. The power dynamic, once so heavily skewed in Derek's favor, flips with the force of a tidal wave. It's a masterful move, a public declaration of allegiance that leaves no room for ambiguity. In one fell swoop, Victor has not only validated my claims, but has also aligned himself with me, turning Derek's personal crisis into a corporate catastrophe. Derek makes a strangled sound, a mixture of a gasp and a sob. His face, already pale, turns a ghostly white. He looks from Victor to me, his eyes wide with a dawning horror. The rival he has spent a decade trying to best, the man he was hours away from crushing, has just become the arbiter of his fate. And I, the wife he had dismissed and discarded, am the one who has handed him the gavel. I don't hesitate. I place my hand in Victor's, his grip firm and warm, a stark contrast to the cold, clammy feel of Derek's touch. "I would be honored, Mr. Chen," I say, my voice clear and steady. The simple act of shaking his hand feels like signing a declaration of independence, a treaty of war, and a promise of a new beginning, all at once. The world seems to fast forward then, a dizzying montage of consequences and comeuppance. I see flashes of the future, a future I am now rewriting. Derek's face on the news, his expression a mixture of outrage and fear as federal investigators lead him from his office in handcuffs. The words asset freezes and embezzlement charges scrolling across the bottom of the screen. I see myself in a sleek, modern boardroom, the Chen Industries logo gleaming on the wall behind me as I sign a stack of papers, my new partnership agreement, my name written in bold, confident strokes. The restaurant, with its gawking patrons and shattered silence, fades into the background. All that matters is this moment, this turning point. Derek, my husband, the man who let me die, is finally realizing the magnitude of his downfall. He sees his empire crumbling, his reputation in tatters, his freedom hanging by a thread. And he sees that the two people responsible for his ruin are now united, a formidable alliance born from his own betrayal. His desperate, sputtering denials are lost in the murmur of the crowd, the clicking of cell phone cameras, the quiet, efficient arrival of hotel security, this time to escort him, not me, from the premises. He is no longer a threat, no longer a monster in the shadows. He is just a man, a weak, pathetic man who has been brought to his knees. As Victor leads me away from the table, his hand resting lightly on the small of my back, a protective, proprietary gesture, I don't look back. There is nothing left for me in the past. My future, a future I never thought I'd have, is just beginning. And for the first time in a very long time, I am not afraid. I am in control. And the game has just begun. The scent of old leather and mahogany fills Derek's office, a scent I once associated with power and success. Now, it just smells like decay. The evening sky outside the floor-to-ceiling windows is a bruised purple, the city lights just beginning to twinkle to life, oblivious to the drama unfolding within these walls. Derek sits behind his massive desk, a man adrift in a sea of his own making, his face a haggard mask of defeat. I walk across the plush, imported rug, the silence in the room broken only by the soft rustle of the papers in my hand. They're a copy of our prenuptial agreement, the one his team of high-priced lawyers drafted, a document designed to protect his assets, to ensure that in the event of a divorce, I would walk away with next to nothing. It was a document I had signed without a second thought, a testament to my naive belief in his love. I stop in front of his desk, his eyes red-rimmed and hollow, following my every move. I don't say a word. I simply hold his gaze and, with a slow, deliberate motion, I tear the document in half. The sound is shockingly loud in the quiet room, a sharp, satisfying rip that echoes the tearing apart of our lives. I tear the halves into quarters, then eighths, letting the pieces fall from my fingers like snow, a blizzard of broken promises dusting the surface of his perfectly polished desk. "You can't do this," he hisses, his voice a ragged whisper. The fight has gone out of him, replaced by a desperate, sputtering rage. A small smile plays on my lips. "I already did," I say, my voice soft, almost conversational. Or rather, my lawyer did. "Your lawyer?" He scoffs, a flicker of his old arrogance returning. "What lawyer would be foolish enough to take you on? You have no money, no leverage." Oh, I have leverage, I say, my smile widening. And as for my lawyer, you know her. In fact, you employed her for years. Derek's face contorts in confusion. What are you talking about? On cue, the door to the adjoining conference room opens and Elena walks in. She's a vision of professional competence, her dark hair pulled back in a sleek chignon, her eyes sharp and intelligent behind stylish frames. She's carrying a slim leather briefcase which she places on the desk with a quiet click. Derek stares at her, his mouth agape. Elena? What is the meaning of this? Elena was his executive assistant for 6 years, a woman so efficient, so loyal, so invisible, that he never saw her as anything more than a part of the office furniture. A woman he confided in, a woman he trusted implicitly, a woman who, for the past 6 months, has been my closest ally. Elena wouldn't, he starts, his voice shaking. Elena's my divorce attorney now, not your secretary. I interrupt, the words a sweet, delicious poison on my tongue. Derek's face pales, the last vestiges of color draining from his cheeks. He looks from me to Elena, a dawning horror in his eyes. He's starting to understand, to see the intricate web that has been woven around him, a web he never even knew existed. For the past 6 months, while you were so busy with your mergers and your business trips, Elena has been documenting everything, I say, my voice as cold as ice. Every affair, every lie, every indiscretion. Elena opens the briefcase, her movements precise and economical. She lays out the contents on the desk, a damning collection of evidence that paints a vivid picture of Derek's duplicity. Hotel receipts from 5-star hotels I've never stayed in. Credit card statements detailing extravagant gifts I've never received. And photos. Glossy, high-resolution photos of Derek with 3 different women, his arms wrapped around them, his face beaming with a happiness he never showed me. We have sworn affidavits from all of them, Elena says, her voice cool and professional. They were more than happy to cooperate, once they realized they weren't the only one and only. Derek stares at the photos, his face a crumbling mask of despair. He's not just losing his company, his freedom. He's losing the carefully crafted image of himself, the one he has spent a lifetime cultivating. He is being exposed layer by painful layer, and there is nothing he can do to stop it. As if on cue, my phone buzzes, a single sharp vibration against the polished wood of the desk. I glance at the screen. It's a text from Dr. Harrison, a man I've never met, the chairman of the board at Hartwell Corp. A man who, according to Elena's intel, is a stickler for ethics and morality. The message is short, concise, and utterly devastating. Board meeting moved to 6 a.m. tomorrow. They're calling an emergency vote to remove you as CEO. I show the screen to Derek, a final, crushing blow. He looks at the words, his eyes glazing over, a man completely and utterly broken. The fight is over. He has lost. I turn to leave, Elena falling into step beside me. We don't look back. There is nothing left to see. The king is dead. And tomorrow at dawn, the queen will take her throne. The first rays of morning light slice through the towering glass windows of the Hartwell Court boardroom, illuminating the fine layer of dust that has settled on the long, polished conference table. It's a room that has always felt oppressive to me, a symbol of Derek's ambition, a place where I was never welcome. Today, it feels like my own. I take my seat, not in one of the chairs lining the sides, but at the head of the table, in the plush leather throne that has always been Derek's. It feels surprisingly comfortable, as if it was made for me. Victor sits to my right, a silent, powerful presence. His calm demeanor a stark contrast to the nervous energy that fills the room as the board members file in, their faces a mixture of confusion and apprehension. They murmur amongst themselves, casting furtive glances in my direction. They don't know what to make of my presence, of the quiet authority with which I claim Derek's seat. They see me as the wife, the socialite, the victim. They are about to see me as the victor. The doors burst open and Derek stumbles in, his suit rumpled, his face a mess of unshaven stubble and wild-eyed desperation. He looks like a man who has been to hell and back, a man who has finally realized that there is no escape. "You can't be here!" he barks, his voice raw, pointing a trembling finger at me. I don't flinch. I simply gesture to the stack of legal documents in front of me, their crisp white pages a stark contrast to the dark wood of the table. As of midnight last night, Chen Industries acquired a 41% stake in Hartwell Corp. I say, my voice echoing in the stunned silence of the room. Which makes Mr. Chen the new majority shareholder, and as his consultant, I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. A wave of shocked murmurs ripples through the room. The board members look at each other, their faces a mixture of disbelief and dawning comprehension. They are starting to understand the magnitude of the coup that has taken place. Derek turns to the board, his voice pleading, hysterical. She's trying to steal my company, the company I built. Victor, who has been silent until now, speaks, his voice quiet but carrying the weight of a death sentence. The company you built on embezzled funds? The gasp that follows is a collective intake of breath, a single, sharp sound that sucks the air out of the room. The board members stare at Derek, their expressions shifting from confusion to horror, from loyalty to betrayal. Dr. Harrison, a distinguished-looking man with silver hair and a stern expression, finally speaks, his voice grave. "Derek, is this true?" "No, it's a lie," Derek shouts, his voice cracking. "She's a vindictive, scorned woman who is trying to destroy me. There's no proof." I slide a small silver flash drive across the polished surface of the table. It glides silently, coming to a stop directly in front of Dr. Harrison. "Everything you need is on there," I say, my voice a calm counterpoint to Derek's frantic denials. "The pension fund transfers, the falsified quarterly reports, the offshore accounts in Switzerland. It's all there." Dr. Harrison picks up the flash drive, his expression grim. He doesn't need to see the contents to know that it's over. He has seen the look in Derek's eyes, the desperate, cornered animal fear of a man who has been caught. He clears his throat, his voice resonating with the finality of a judge's gavel. The board votes to terminate Derek Hartwell's position as CEO, effective immediately. Derek's face crumbles, the last vestiges of his pride and arrogance dissolving into a mask of pure, unadulterated despair. Yes, he sags against the table, his body trembling, a broken man in a broken suit. "It's over. I have won. I have taken everything from him just as he took everything from me." But as I look at his pathetic, defeated form, I don't feel the triumph I expected. I just feel empty. The revenge, as sweet as it is not enough. It will not bring back the years I wasted, the love I lost, the life that was stolen from me. But it's a start. I stand, my movement slow and deliberate. The board members watch me, their eyes filled with a new kind of respect. I am no longer just Derek's wife. I am the woman who brought him down. As I walk towards the door, I pause, my hand on the cool metal of the handle. I turn to face the room, my eyes meeting Derek's one last time. "There's still the matter of the criminal charges," I say, my voice quiet, but carrying the promise of a future he will never have. And with those final words, I walk out of the boardroom and into my new life, leaving the ruins of my past behind me. "I died for you once," I say, the words a final, bitter epitaph to our marriage. Derek doesn't respond. He just stares at the polished floor, a man already in his grave. I won't make that mistake again. 6 months later, the world is a different place. I'm sitting in the same boardroom, at the head of the same table, but the name on the door is different. Chen Hartwell Industries. A new empire, built from the ashes of the old. The television on the wall is muted, but the images are clear enough. Derek, in an orange jumpsuit, his face impassive as the judge reads his sentence. 20 years, it's a lifetime, but it doesn't feel like enough. I sign the last of the paperwork, the final acquisition that will solidify our place as the leader in the industry. My signature, once a timid, hesitant scrawl, is now bold and confident, the mark of a woman who knows her own worth. The door opens and Victor walks in, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He places one in front of me, 2 sugars, just the way I like it. A small detail, but one that speaks volumes. Derek never remembered. "How's it going, boss?" he asks, a playful glint in his eye. I smile, a real, genuine smile that reaches my eyes. "We're taking over the world, Victor. One acquisition at a time." "I have no doubt," he says, his voice warm. He leans against the table, his presence a comforting weight in the room. "I was thinking about dinner, that new Italian place you wanted to try." I look at him, at the man who saw me at my weakest and offered me a hand. Not out of pity, but out of respect. The man who has become my partner, my confidant, my friend. The man who is, in every way, the antithesis of the man on the television screen. Some second chances are worth taking, and some are worth taking twice. I'd love that, I say. My heart, for the first time in a long time, feeling whole again. The past is a ghost, but it no longer has the power to haunt me. I am no longer a victim, I am a survivor, and I am finally truly alive.